You probably think you can spot a wealthy person by their car, their watch, or the way they talk about money. Here's the problem. You're looking at all the wrong signals. The truly wealthy don't broadcast their status because they don't need validation from strangers. By the end of this, I'll show you the actual indicators that someone is sitting on serious money and why most people completely miss them. My name is Ivan, and I help people understand money, personal finance, and the psychology behind why some people build wealth while others just build appearances. If you're interested in understanding what real wealth actually looks like instead of the Hollywood version, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if this information helps you out. Think about it like fitness. The person posting gym selfies every day isn't necessarily the healthiest person you know. The person who's actually in shape just lives their life without needing to prove anything. Wealth works the same way. The signals are there, but they're subtle, and most people are too busy looking at the wrong things to notice them. Sign 1. They wear simple, unremarkable clothes. When it comes to fashion, the truly wealthy have a completely different approach, and it's the opposite of what you'd expect. They're not wearing designer labels, flashy logos, or anything that screams expensive. Instead, they go for that laid-back, understated look, simple basics, comfortable jeans, maybe a classic jacket, nothing that demands attention. Here's what this actually means. When you have real money, you don't need clothes to announce your status. You're not trying to convince anyone of anything. The person wearing a $50 plain t-shirt might have $500,000 in investments, while the person in the $300 designer shirt is drowning in credit card debt trying to look successful. The consequence of missing this signal is that you judge people's wealth completely backward. You assume the flashy dresser has money and the simple dresser is struggling, when the reality is often the exact opposite. This relaxed approach to clothing isn't just about comfort, it's a statement about priorities. Broadcasting your ability to buy nice clothing simply isn't important when you're genuinely wealthy. Start noticing the quiet confidence in how people present themselves. Real wealth whispers, fake wealth screams. Sign 2, they never mention the cost of things. Here's something most people never pick up on. You can usually tell someone's well off when they're not constantly discussing money or what things cost. While people who are financially stressed find themselves debating every purchase, truly wealthy folks simply don't think about prices for everyday decisions. Let me make this concrete. When dining out with someone who has real money, you might notice they don't even check the menu prices. They order exactly what they want, regardless of whether it's the $18 pasta or the $42 steak. The cost of living is going up. They barely noticed. They're taking the family overseas next month, and this is the first time they even mentioned it. Here's the psychology behind this. When you have enough money in the bank, price tags on normal purchases don't register in your brain anymore. You're not doing mental math at the grocery store. You're not stressing about whether you can afford something. The purchasing decision is separated from the price anxiety that dominates most people's thinking. Contrast this with someone who's struggling financially. They'll mention prices constantly, how much gas went up, what the electric bill was this month, whether they can afford to eat out this weekend. Not because they're cheap, but because they have to think about it. Every dollar matters when your margin is thin. Pay attention to how often someone discusses the cost of everyday things. If they rarely or never mention it, that's a signal they're operating from a position of financial abundance. Sign 3, they drive practical, modest vehicles. This one surprises people, but it's one of the most reliable indicators. Driving around in a low-key Toyota or Honda instead of a shiny late-model Mercedes or BMW might just be a sign they're far wealthier than you'd guess. The truly wealthy recognize that a car's purpose is transportation, not status display. Here's the math that matters. A practical $30,000 car that lasts 15 years costs $2,000 per year. A $70,000 luxury car that needs expensive maintenance and depreciates faster costs way more. Maybe $6,000 to $8,000 per year when you factor in higher insurance, premium gas, and repairs. That's an extra $4,000 to $6,000 annually that could be invested instead. Now, zoom out. That $4,000 per year invested at 8% returns becomes about $90,000 over 20 years. The person driving the modest car isn't sacrificing. They're making a calculated choice to build wealth instead of broadcast status. Meanwhile, the luxury car owner is bleeding money to impress strangers at red lights. Surprisingly, the most popular vehicles among millionaires include Toyota, Honda, Ford, and Subaru. These folks could afford any car they want, but they choose practicality over extravagance. There's something revealing about seeing someone who could buy a Porsche but drives a Camry, It shows they're not making financial decisions based on other people's opinions. Stop judging wealth by what someone drives. That beat up truck might belong to someone with 2 million in index funds, while that leased BMW might belong to someone whose one missed paycheck from disaster. Sign 4, they're completely unbothered by others' opinions. When it comes to identifying someone who's genuinely well off, it often comes down to their nonchalant attitude toward what others think. With a comfortable financial cushion at their disposal, they move through life with a carefree demeanor, unfazed by societal pressures or expectations about how they should live. Here's what this looks like practically. They don't feel the need to boast about their 6-word job title, mention their education, or name drop responsibilities when meeting someone new just to impress them. They don't play the game of trying to one-up everyone around them. Their primary focus is their own happiness and goals, steering clear of the need to conform to external standards. The psychology here is critical. When you don't have money, you're constantly aware of how others perceive you because your social capital matters more. You need the right impression for job opportunities, for networking, for maintaining your position, but when you have real financial security, that pressure evaporates. You can just be yourself because your worth isn't tied to what strangers think at a dinner party. Now, here's the contrast. Poor Peter is always managing his image, dropping hints about his accomplishments, steering conversations toward impressive topics, needing validation. Rich Richard shows up authentically, asks genuine questions about others, and doesn't feel compelled to prove anything. The money they spend is solely for personal satisfaction. What others think is the last thing on their mind. The consequence of missing the signal is you mistake confidence for arrogance or humility for lack of ambition. The quietly self-assured person who doesn't seek approval might be the wealthiest person in the room. Notice who's trying hard to impress and who's just comfortable being themselves. Real wealth buys freedom from caring about status games. Sign 5. They're barely active on social media. If you never see someone flaunting their lifestyle online, it might just be a sign they've got serious money. The secretly wealthy aren't posting selfies in front of expensive cars, plastering their socials with restaurant check-ins, or documenting every waking moment of their vacation to show how much they're spending. Here's what they do instead. They keep it quiet and occasionally share moments that are about life, family, and friends, not luxury. While others are busy flexing designer outfits or exotic locations, the truly wealthy don't feel the need for that performance. It's almost like they feel bad about rubbing it on people who have less. Let me make this concrete with numbers. The average person spends about 2.5 hours per day on social media, much of that time either consuming other people's highlight reels or creating their own. That's 17.5 hours per week, or about 900 hours per year spent on digital status games. Wealthy people who opt out of this get nearly 900 hours back annually to focus on actual wealth-building activities. Here's the psychology. When you have real wealth, you don't need validation through likes and comments from hundreds of people you'll never speak to again. Your self-worth isn't tied to social media engagement. You're more about genuine connections and meaningful experiences than seeking approval from strangers online. Check your own social media habits. If you're spending hours crafting posts to look successful, you're wasting time you could spend actually becoming successful. Real wealth is built in private and enjoyed in private. Sign 6. They have zero interest in impressing you with material stuff. You can spot someone who's seriously well off when they're not wowed by material possessions. They don't get a thrill out of shopping. They don't browse online stores for entertainment. And they don't look toward material goods to make them happy. It's like they're completely fine with what they've got and don't feel the need to constantly chase after more. Here's what this means practically. Instead of blowing cash on things, they're more focused on making memories and building relationships. They figured out that true happiness isn't found in owning lots of junk, but in living life fully and connecting with others. When you see someone who's not caught up in the latest trends or flashy gadgets, you can bet they've got wealth stashed away. The math behind this matters. Say the average person spends $150 per month on non-essential material purchases, random Amazon orders, impulse buys, stuff that seemed cool at the time. That's $1,800 per year. But here's where it gets interesting. When people realize material goods don't create lasting happiness, they often redirect that spending toward experiences or investments instead. Now, let's talk about the wealth building side. People who aren't obsessed with material stuff find themselves with more income to devote to other endeavors, whether that's travel, education, or investing. This mindset shift doesn't just save money, it fundamentally changes your relationship with consumption and ultimately speeds up wealth accumulation. Audit your own material purchases from the last 3 months. How many brought lasting satisfaction versus temporary excitement? The wealthy figured out this equation early and stopped wasting money on stuff that doesn't matter. Sign 7. They're never bragging about their success. Here's something subtle but incredibly reliable. Wealthy people typically don't feel the need to announce their financial status to everyone they meet. They're not going around talking about how rich and successful they are. In fact, they actually prefer it when people don't know their true financial situation because it changes how others treat them. Let me explain the psychology here. When people know you're wealthy, they approach you differently. Some want favors, some resent you, some try to take advantage, some change their entire personality around you. Keeping your wealth private means you get to see people's authentic selves and form genuine connections based on who you are rather than what you have. Here's the practical reality. Folks who constantly talk about their money are usually trying to convince themselves as much as others. Real wealth provides such deep internal confidence that external validation becomes unnecessary. They carry themselves with a certain ease and humility, not feeling the urge to broadcast their financial status to the world. Think about the contrast. Poor Peter meets someone new and within 10 minutes has mentioned his job title 3 times, dropped the name of his company, and hinted at his salary range. Rich Richard has a normal conversation about shared interests and might never mention what he does for work unless directly asked. One is performing, the other is just being. The consequence of missing this is you might overlook the wealthiest person in the room because they're the quietest about money. Meanwhile, you pay attention to the loud person who's actually struggling but needs you to think otherwise. Practice talking about your life without mentioning financial markers. Notice how much more genuine your connections become when money isn't part of the conversation. Sign 8. They maintain a cash buffer you never hear about. Here's one of the most invisible sides of real wealth. They always have a financial cushion, but they never mention it. While most people live paycheck to paycheck and stress about every unexpected expense, the quietly wealthy have months or even years of living expenses sitting in boring savings accounts. Let me give you the numbers. The average person has less than $5,000 in savings. Someone who's built real wealth typically maintains at least 6 to 12 months of expenses in liquid cash. That's $30,000 to $60,000 just sitting there doing nothing except buying peace of mind. They're not bragging about this buffer. They're not even thinking about it most days. It's just there. Here's what this buffer does psychologically. It flips your brain from survival mode into opportunity mode. When your car needs a $1,000 repair, you're not panicking about how to pay for it. You're just mildly annoyed. When your company announces layoffs, you're not terrified. You're calmly updating your resume. This mental shift changes everything about how you make decisions and spot opportunities. Now, here's where most people mess up. They think having cash sitting in savings is wasteful because it's not earning high returns. But wealthy people understand that this buffer is the foundation of everything else. It's what allows you to invest for the long term without panic selling when emergencies hit. It's what lets you negotiate better job offers because you can afford to walk away. Build your own cash buffer before you do anything else, even if it's just $2,000 to start. That cushion changes your psychology and protects the wealth you're building from getting wiped out by the next unexpected expense. The next time you meet someone who doesn't fit the stereotype of wealth, remember looks are deceiving. Real riches come from within, not from the things we own or the image we project. Start paying attention to these subtle signals and you'll notice that the wealthiest people you know have been hiding in plain sight all along.